If you don't have the scientists or engineers to build a plane from scratch, you can always copy the planes built by your allies or opponents. That is what the Soviet Union did when they looked for a long-range bomber near the end of World War II. Here is in a nutshell the Soviet B-29 variant, better known as the Tupolev Tu 4-Bull. At the onset of World War II, the Soviet Union had a 4-engine heavy bomber in the form of the Petlyakov PE-8. And although the aircraft was used with some success against the Germans, the Soviets realized they need to catch up with strategic bombing capabilities of the United States Army Air Force. Twice did the Soviet Union request B-29s under Lend-Lease. Twice their request was refused. So if the Americans were not handing over B-29s, the Soviets had to find another way of getting their hands on the 4-engine long-range bomber. During 1944, on 4 separate occasions, 3 B-29s made emergency landings and 1 crashed in Soviet territory. Since the Soviet Union was a neutral party in the Pacific War, courtesy of the Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact, all bomber crews were interned and their planes kept by the Soviets. The 3 airworthy B-29s were flown to Moscow where, at Stalin's orders, Tupolev began the process of copying the design. It took Tupolev 2 years to produce 20 copies, ready for acceptance trials. If you want to support my channel and want to see more of these videos, please click the subscribe button and notification bell. I post at least 1 video a week with 4 shorts on the remaining days. Just like the B-29, the Tu-4 was divided into pressurized compartments accommodating a crew of 11, which included the flight crew and defensive gunners. With the exception of the engines, defensive weapons, radio, and identification friend or foe, all other parts were equal to the B-29. The Soviet engine was developed from the Wright R-1820 instead of the B-29's Wright R-3350. The 12.7mm guns were also replaced by harder-hitting and longer-range 23mm cannons. The first Tu-4 prototype flew on May 19, 1947, and the type entered large-scale service in 1949. The first public appearance occurred during the Ticino Aviation Day Parade on August 3, 1947. First 3 Tu-4 flew overhead, fooling the Western observers that these were the 3 interned B-29s. Only when a 4th Tu-4 flew over did the observers realize the Soviets had managed to reverse engineer the B-29. There was some panic in the United States Air Force upon learning of the existence of the Tu-4, since the Tu-4 possessed sufficient range for a one-way suicide attack mission against Chicago or Los Angeles. This prompted a combined U.S. and British Air Forces exercise in 1948, where British Gloucester Meteor and Havilland Vampires practiced interception against B-29 standing in for the Tu-4. Although the Soviets developed mid-air refueling for the Tu-4, only a few operational aircraft were equipped to refuel in mid-air, rendering the threat to the West Coast unlikely. The Soviet Air Force operated 847 Tu-4 bombers between 1948 and early 1960. But from 1954 onwards, the Tu-4s were replaced by Tu-16 and Tu-95 bombers. The Tu-4 were withdrawn from frontline duty and relegated to transport duties. Besides the Soviets, the People's Liberation Army Air Force received 12 Tu-4 bombers. The PLAAF experimented with a modified Tu-4 airframe, equipping it with a radar rotodome, turning the plane into an airborne early warning aircraft. However, the aircraft failed to meet the PLAAF requirements and the project was cancelled. Nevertheless, the PLAAF kept holding on longer than the Soviets to its Tu-4, retiring the last aircraft in 1988. Not only was the Tu-4 a testament to the skill and determination of the Soviet engineers, it also represented the growing tension and upcoming arms race between the former World War II allies at the onset of the Cold War, which would pitch America and its allies against the Soviet Union. Thank you for watching. If you like these videos and have suggestions, feel free to note them in the comments.